Glad tidings, everyone.
Glad tidings.
I'm here today with my friend Daniel. Daniel and I are here today to talk about your and our good health and the importance of you knowing what that even means. We live in the West. There's the American Medical Association and Western medicine. Is that the best, the be-all and the end-all? Or is there other traditions around the world that have been around for thousands of years, maybe, that are proving to be very helpful for people in other parts of the world? And Daniel is a 20-year trained practitioner in the art and science of acupuncture, of yoga, of Ayurvedic medicine. My pronunciation is probably off there, and Chinese medicine. So Daniel is going to really inform us and enlighten us about some of these other traditions that have been around way longer than Western medicine, and the people that are practicing them are living 70, 80 years on average. So they must be pretty good, because that's basically as good or better as Western medicine's lifespan averages. And also, we want to bring in, of course, the Baha'i Faith and what medical and dietary guidance the Baha'i Faith brings for your and my health, and how it actually ties in to a lot of the medical practices we just talked about. So, this is anything you wanna add at this point, Daniel?
I mean, I think it's pretty apparent that there is a need to look beyond what is offered as the I don't want to say the end all be all, but oftentimes, at least in my practice, I have a lot of patients who have been through the Western medical system, and they have basically given up, and so as a last resort, often they come to these other modalities, and it doesn't need to be like that. In other countries, like Japan, for instance, or China, they have the Chinese medicine. In Japan, it's called Kempo, and it means Hanfeng, which is Chinese method. So 1,500 years ago, monks brought the Chinese medical knowledge to Japan, and they honed it and they made it their own. They made it Japanese, and now it's fully integrated into the Japanese healthcare system. Health insurance covers it, and it's offered in combination with what we would call Western medicine, Western medical science. And so
they take the best of everything that's available.
Yeah, and then they combine it, and so it's not something you have to go out on the fringes to find. It's right there, sanctioned and legitimized by a government who insures you.
And that's really the point of this video, is that we want you to broaden your knowledge of health issues for your betterment of your life and your happiness. And we want to bring in, of course, some of the Baha'i principles for that. But before we do that, we have to offer a disclaimer, because we're talking about health things, and we want to make sure that you know that if you're sick, you need to go see a doctor, a competent doctor. And in that mode, we have what I would call the best disclaimer in the history of the world, because Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder, the promised one of all ages and religions, himself has unambiguously stated this. He says, in his most holy book, he stated, no less, "Resort ye in times of sickness to competent physicians. We have not set aside the use of material means for healing. Rather, we have confirmed it through this pen, which God hath made to be the dawning place of his shining and glorious cause." So that's the ultimate disclaimer, in that if you're sick, go see a doctor. We're here to help you understand what your options are, and of course, from what Baha'u'llah said, he said, seek ye a competent doctor. Well, that brings up the question, of course, well, what is a competent doctor,
Yeah.
right?
Right. What is a competent doctor?
And how would we go about determining for ourselves who's competent or not? Do you have any ideas?
I think before you even look at what a competent doctor is, you have to look at what is a competent system of medicine, and so even stepping back before looking at an individual, saying what is a competent system of medicine that we can trust, and so we can trust certain aspects of medical science. For instance, if you fractured a bone, if you have lacerated your skin, you need stitches. If you have toothache, or you need to have a tooth removed, Western medicine has provided ample evidence that it is very competent at handling these emergency issues, acute.
So look at the history of the system to see if it's competently handled your issue throughout decades, I guess.
Yeah, and so we could say, in this instance, Western medicine is amazing. It can reset the bone. It can operate. It can do a lot of things that can to address the acute emergency issue we might have run into. But what is its history regarding a chronic disease, or maybe diseases that aren't so obvious, maybe more subtle, and we could say mental health issues, which, just saying mental health issues, it kind of sets your mental state apart from your physical, emotional, spiritual state. And in a lot of these modalities that we want to address, nothing is separate. Like, you can't go somewhere without your emotions. Your body can't just travel over here without your spirit, your thoughts. And so everything is always here together, and that's what makes, I think, some of these other modalities attractive, especially now. People are learning about mind-body health, the mind-body continuum. It's just not a physical surgery. There's an emotional component. There's a spiritual component, potentially, right? It's the holistic medicine
approach.
is very good at, Western medicine is very good at studying the physical body. And it has a lot to learn from these traditions that have been around for thousands of years, more than that, because pain is something everybody experiences. It's universal disease.
Yeah. So there's 3 different modalities that we're investigating. One would be traditional Chinese medicine. One would be, how do you say it? Ayurvedic, right? And Campo, which Daniel briefly talked about already. But so I'm just going to say a little bit, because Daniel was really the expert. But these 3 traditions, they certainly have the physical healing as a component, but they also have, correct me if I'm wrong, they have a dietary component, they have a spiritual component, and they have an emotional component for all regarding your, and they consider all those things important for your health, for your cure, so to speak. Is that a summary that?
That's great. Yeah, they look at all aspects of a person's life. Very inclusive, even reaching out and like, how are your social connections? How's the community? How do you see yourself or your role in the community? So, and this is also, we should shout out to the Native American traditions, because they also are very similar to Ayurveda, Chinese medicine. There's not one uniform system, because it's many different indigenous groups, but there's commonalities and similarities. And, often it's looking at the much bigger picture. Like, for instance, in Cherokee, the word for medicine, well, there's a word Nbalti, and it means power, and it means anything with power to heal, right? Or anything that helps is another way to think about it. So water can be medicine, like cold hot water therapy is a thing that's been practiced around the world for many thousands of years in many cultures. Singing. I lived in a island archipelago of Tonga, and I noticed people would sing. Sometimes when they were sad, they would just start to sing, and that's one of the ways that they use to overcome their grief. The singing, and Native American traditions also espouse chanting, especially in group settings, as a way to overcome illness, grief. So yeah, the community medicine, anything that helps is seen as a form of medicine, and so that just opens the doors to many things. Music, group or communal music, singing while sacred prayers or chants are spoken.
And on that subject, I don't know if I said it at the beginning,
universal.
But if you stick around to the end, Daniel will be playing. You want to show him? Daniel will be playing the flute. And he'll be playing traditional American Indian healing music, and I'll be reciting a Baha'i prayer for healing while he's playing. So I hope you'll stick around for that, because that will be our blessing to you. So Dan, is there anything else you wanted to say about Native American medical practices while we were had brought up the subject?
Well, there's so much, I guess, to talk about with Native American traditions. They have ceremonies where which often includes a sweat lodge, and as we know, sweating is incorporated in many modalities: Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. It opens the pores, increases circulation, helps cleanse, and it just helps you, feel better. The heat, the release. So while that is taking place, oftentimes there are prayers chanted during the ceremony. The ceremony will include sweating, include chants, prayers, readings, and sometimes sacred herbs, sage, cedar. And so it's there are unfortunately, and this we could tie into religion as well. There was a very concerted effort to push out and eradicate Native American culture when the U.S. was colonized, and it happens often in many areas of the world. There's a sense of superiority about one's own culture or philosophy, and so when that kind of pride, that arrogance, we know we have a superior culture, then if it's so entrenched, it can lead to the destruction of knowledge that is beneficial to everyone and the planet. And so unfortunately, this knowledge that Native American communities had cultivated over thousands of years and many generations was pushed almost into extinction. And it's very rare to find today someone who has grown up with that knowledge of Native American, in, for instance, Dene, which was commonly known as Navajo. I've been fortunate to know a Dene healer, and he's a fourth generation healer. There are not many. In fact, when my children are my age, I'm wondering if there'll be any left at all. I hope so. But it's tying into, in my head, religion. When you have a group of people who believe their religion is the best religion or should be the only religion, they can get very aggressive and brutal towards those who have a religion other than theirs. And it happens all across the board. It happens with medicine, knowledge, cultures. But this is why I think I like what draws me to the Baha'i Faith, is that it's not here to displace anyone's faith or religion or put itself above anyone's culture. It's here to embrace and say, hey, what can we learn from you?
Right.
And so that's a very different perspective.
Right, and I want to that's a perfect point to tie in, because the Baha'i Faith has at least, well, there's many principles, but for this subject that we're talking about, one of the principles being the oneness of humanity, another being the independent investigation of the truth, and a third teaching which says, let your vision be world embracing. This ties in exactly to what we're saying for your health, and for other subjects as well. But for your health, why limit yourself, to just one system when you have all these other proven for millennium, right? Systems that have been here much longer than Western medicine, where the people are living very happily and healthily. And so when you're searching for a competent doctor, right here is a competent practitioner. He can do, like I said, acupuncture, massage, Ayurvedic, Chinese medicine, and these might be exactly what you need. You might not need surgery. You might not need a prescription, right? You might not need some invasive procedure. It may be that your diet is terrible, and he can advise you on that. So there's people all around you who are competent and who can help you. So the point is that the Baha'i Faith is a very holistic approach to health. It's sort of like Campo in that you're advised to take the best of everything that's available and not limit yourself, because when you limit yourself, you're only hurting yourself. So have an open mind and do your investigation and find these competent practitioners of these other systems of medicine for your health and benefit. Another subject that we wanted to talk about was fasting for your health. Today, if you look at any of the medical research, moderate fasting, it has many healthful benefits for you. And so, in all of these medical systems that we just talked about, all incorporate fasting, and the Baha'i Faith itself has its own fast. And so, what fasting will do is it will improve your physical, mental, and spiritual health. There's traditions of it in Christianity, Hindu, Buddhist, Baha'i, for example. And the Baha'i fast is very interesting in that it lasts for 19 days, and it's coming up next month, by the way. It lasts for 19 days, which is the last month of the Baha'i year, and it's from sunrise to sunset. It's always the same time of year, so it's a moderate climate this time of year in the early spring. It's almost roughly 12 hours, daylight, nighttime. You don't eat and drink during the daytime. So and at the age of 70, you're exempted from fasting. And fasting, the benefits are confirmed: weight loss, cardiovascular health, cell repair, brain function, longevity, and as it regards spiritual health, fasting, it's a shield, and it protects our souls from corrupt inclinations, satanic qualities, and allows our spirit to better commune with the Holy Spirit, increasing our spiritual awareness, joy, and our spiritual station. So wanted to throw that aspect of health in because, again, fasting is found all over the globe as a means of improving one's health, physical and spiritual. Anything you wanted to add to that, Daniel?
Fasting, for me, is very helpful for a number of reasons. I fast not only during the Baha'i fast, but also intermittently sometimes throughout the year, just to give my digestive system a break, because it's constantly working if you're not giving a little space between meals. And so for digestive health issues, it's often recommended in many of these traditions that have been mentioned to engage in fasting. It really clears my mind. Personally, I feel I can organize my life much better. I am more calm. And of course, another aspect of Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine is the connection between emotions and the disease state, which kind of ties into fasting. If you fast, it has a great effect on one's nerves and emotional state. Like you become kind of, I don't want to say you're withdrawn from the worldly things that seem so important when you're not fasting, but then as soon as you start fasting, you're like, well, this wasn't as important as I thought it was. And so it shifts the mind, which is, of course, a lot of times where the disease state starts. It's in wrong thinking, which is brings us to a Buddhist concept of right thinking, and something my teachers at the acupuncture school where I studied really ingrained into us is how our perspective, our thinking, is often at the root of many of our disease states. And we can also study food. So food, also, and that also is related to fasting. Certain foods can make you more or less aggressive. Interestingly, in Ayurveda, in Chinese medicine, and in fact, they've done some research recently with omega-3 fish oils that, in a study of lasting over 30 years, I believe, with 4,000 some participants, they found it had almost a 30% reduction in aggression in those who have been incarcerated, those who perhaps are on the cusp, and so a lot of interesting things happening now related to food and its effects on our spiritual, mental, emotional state. So I'm also rambling a little bit. I just wanted to say that fasting and food is a big part of medicine in many cultures and religions.
Yeah, the food you eat, and when I say food, I put that in parentheses because there's things you shouldn't eat that are classified as food, like we'll just say sugars, right? The high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, cottonseed oil. These things are not edible. They should not be in your mouth. They should not be in your body. But we put them in us in such high amounts. Daniel's talking about the aggression factor. Well, there's also anxiety, right? There's also the deterioration of your organs due to this. We did not evolve with this high level of carbohydrates, raw, processed carbohydrates. Coursing through us every day. Every time you take a drink, it has to have some kind of sugar, some kind of sweetener in it. This literally, our beverages are very unhealthy. So if we just cut back, so Daniel, is there anything you wanted to add to the conversation?
Yes, I like to look for connections between cultures and philosophies, religions, medical modalities, and so finding those connections, I think, is very affirming. For instance, I believe it's Psalms or Proverbs that anger, one of the lines is anger has an ill effect or damages the liver, right? And
But it says that in the Baha'i Faith too.
Says that in the Baha'i Faith too. So, all right, and then also in Chinese medicine, anger damages the liver in particular. And we know that when you're angry, it releases a lot of cortisol. The liver is producing cortisol, so it's now, instead of doing all its other 500 functions, it's now just releasing cortisol and some other, perhaps negative hormones. So the liver, like as I was saying, it does so many things for the body. If it's just if you're in a state of anger, now just appropriate anger can help you in a situation that is not good. And so your body has a need then to release that cortisol, have a fight or flight response, and respond appropriately. It's the anger that is just underlying, that isn't addressed, that is just under the surface almost continuously. So the liver then is now just it's producing excess cortisol, which has negative effects on the body. So there is science. So that's the nice thing too, right? When the science can back up what the religion or what the medical philosophy has said thousands of years ago, before they were able to really look in and see what any of these hormones or chemicals were. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, that is fascinating. That when the religious teachings are confirmed by the science, which the science is coming thousands of years after the religious teachings on health. So that's and so that tells you that there's competence behind what's being offered, and so that will help you in your quest for finding good health.
One more thing I think we should mention is food as medicine. That's a very ancient saying from Hippocrates, I believe, and it's throughout Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, Japanese medicine, Native American traditions have a long history and knowledge of the power of food as medicine, and the Baha'i Faith also likewise Baha'u'llah, and as then stated through his son Abdul Baha, and again through his grandson Shoghi Effendi, talks about how most disease states that we are facing right now can be remedied through diet. And now the science is also pretty clear on that. It's coming out now. Is it getting into mainstream medicine? Yes, there's an awareness, but if you talk to a surgeon or a doctor, they'll tell you that their training on food and the connection between food and ill health is limited.
It's non-existent,
if even at all.
Yeah. Nurses
have a little more training. They can opt to study, like a course perhaps, but it's not a huge part of their.
And not only food as a cure for disease, but to prevent it from you getting it in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
Because the reason you get the dis-ease is because your body doesn't have the protein and the amino acids and the minerals that, for example, that it needs to be healthy in the first place. So it's operating in a deficit situation, so that allows disease to happen, or disease to come in and not, the body can't handle it. So your diet is huge from both prevention and curative purposes. So seek out a competent nutritionist, someone who understands these other, because like Daniel was saying, the doctors in the West have almost zero training on anything to do with nutrition, diet, and health, all those things together. So you need to seek out these other traditions that we talked about, practitioners who spend a lifetime understanding food, herbs, and other natural plant foods and medicines for your health.
Yeah, and that just reminds me of this quote, this passage by Abdul Baha, where he talks about an animal who has no training, didn't attend any schools, has never researched,
done no research
yet whatever animal, he didn't reference what animal, just an animal, can, through its faculty of smell, taste, sight, it can, in a field or forest of 100 or 1,000 herbaceous plants, find that particular one that is going to address whatever deficiency it has that has led to that imbalance. So it can, through its faculty of smell, can smell a plant that might have the right amount of carbohydrates or sugars it needs to bring itself back to balance, and it'll find that and eat that, and then it'll taste good, and so it'll continue to eat that. And also he mentions, would it be the case that if we have these senses that we are now almost, I don't want to say detached from, but we're just tuning into our senses can really help us understand what we need. And so
stop eating when your sense of
when you're full and you're sick.
Yeah. Stop eating when you're full.
Yeah. Of course, the food science is exploiting that to add to our ill health by putting in those flavors.
Oh, the chemicals.
The chemicals.
They're not flavors. They're chemicals. They're not natural.
They're not food. They're like food.
They're not food.
Whatever.
It's all chemical. Yeah.
But would it be the case that if there was something that smelled awful, right, and that was offensive to our sense of smell, would it be then good for our health to partake or ingest that?
Clearly not, right?
And Abdul Baha states, well, how about if the taste is offensive? Again, that's how the animal can itself find what it needs to bring itself back into balance. And again, that's kind of echoing Chinese medicine, Taoism, yin and yang. This equilibrium has been lost, And so a lot of these ancient modalities just seek to find the equilibrium and the balance. And even before the imbalance starts, maintaining balance, prevention, in a sense, like we had mentioned, doing those things, eating those things, having those practices that maintains that balance, so you don't ever have to get sick. In the old days in China, the acupuncturist would go around treating the village, and he would be paid as long as everybody was healthy. As soon as people started to become sick, then they withheld payment. He had to get them healthy again. So he was treating people the whole time, just to prevent illness.
That's the motivation. That's a good motivation.
Yeah, and we got that completely backwards here. So much we can learn from our ancestors.
So one of the things we are really talking about, and the Baha'i Faith is talking about, and these other traditions are talking about, is take care of yourself so you're not getting sick in the first place. Not wait, just do whatever you want to do, and then you get crazy sick, and then go to the doctor. Take care of yourself. Be happy by being in balance in your day-to-day life, as opposed to waiting till you're sick.
Exercise,
very huge for prevention.
Huge. And even so, the science is very solid. Exercise can prevent any number of disease states. It elevates our mood. And even the Baha'i writings, Baha'u'llah tells us to exercise. Of course, everything in moderation with food and with exercise. So we have more energy to engage with others, and even spread the faith. It's an interesting aspect of our writings, how it incorporates these things that can prevent and keep us healthy, at the same time keep the community.
Our physical health should be utilized for helping other people, right? Basically.
Okay, so here's a pamphlet I really like to reference various writings from the Baha'i Faith.
You want to show them the
various
cover?
Authors. So here's a interesting reading I just came across recently. Healing through purely spiritual forces is undoubtedly as inadequate as that which materialist physicians and thinkers vainly seek to obtain by resorting entirely to mechanical devices and methods.
So you said spiritual means is as inadequate. Can you say that again?
Purely spiritual forces. So
purely spiritual forces
is undoubtedly as inadequate as that which materialist physicians and thinkers vainly seek to obtain by resorting entirely to mechanical devices.
So resorting to one or the other is not good.
It's saying just solely relying on one or the other is inadequate, and it's saying the best result can be obtained by combining the two processes, spiritual and physical. And Abdu'l-Baha then further states, physical healing cannot be complete and lasting unless it is reinforced by spiritual healing.
You have a story about that, don't you?
I have a story that sort of ties into this. My dear friend from way back when I was just a little guy. One day, years later, my friend in his 20s became ill with a type of cancer and found himself in the hospital. And the surgeon, I should also state that my father is a surgeon, but the doctor taking care of my friend was not my dad. He was perhaps competent in one regard, but he lacked empathy, compassion, and the art of listening. And so my friend was in this state of just hopelessness after this surgery, and he almost said on death's doorstep. I don't have the exact words in mind, but he was very physically ill and down emotionally. And then my father came and just listened to him and just gave him empathy and compassion, and my friend said that was enough to lift his spirits and bring him into another state that he had thought he had lost. He felt like he was dying. And so just the importance of having that compassion and just the ability to listen and to be present, right, with your patient is also so important and vital. And I think...
Well, the emotional goes toward that spiritual, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is lost, I think, in a lot of, not totally, but they don't even have time in this system of Western medicine to be that present. They've got like 5 minutes, and I got to go to the next 300 people. So they don't have that even leisure. But yeah, I just wanted to reference that as a competent physician.
Thank you. End this video with a
Little song.
a little healing music from the flute and from the American Indian tradition.
And maybe you could add a reading.
I'll add a little Baha'i prayer. Thy name is my healing, O my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing and my succor in both this world and in the world to come. Thou verily art the all-bountiful, the all-knowing, the all-wise. Thank you, Daniel. And remember, subscribe, like, and comment, and you'll get a lot more.